As Bob Ross famously said, you gotta have a little sadness once in a while to know when the good times come. The same philosophy applies to roller coasters. You have to endure the bad ones to truly appreciate the great ones. And while 2024 offered plenty of thrilling new coaster experiences, there were a few that brought more frustration than fun. Today, we are counting down the top 5 worst roller coasters I've ridden for the first time in 2024. Number 5. Dreamcatcher at Bobbejaanland in Belgium. Dreamcatcher earns the dubious honor of kicking off this list, but let's be fair, it is not the absolute worst. In fact, the fact that it's number 5 shows that I rode some excellent coasters this year. Dreamcatcher is a rare Vekoma swinging turns coaster, but it suffers from an unfortunate choice of train design. The old airplane-style cars were replaced with more generic suspended trains that sway along the track. Paired with restrictive over-the-shoulder restraints, the ride becomes awkward and uncomfortable. While the layout lacks intensity and feels largely uneventful, it is the sudden jerky transitions that really spoil the experience. Even riding defensively, I wasn't prepared for how often my hand would be slammed into the restraints. Maybe a front row ride would have been better, but after that single jarring experience, I decided Dreamcatcher wasn't worth a second chance. Number 4. Ghost Chasers at Movie Park Germany. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of old school Mach Wild Mouse coasters, and Ghost Chasers only reinforced that. This ride felt poorly maintained, making it one of the roughest experiences I've had in 2024. The initial hairpin turns were manageable, but as the coaster picked up speed, things quickly went downhill, literally and figuratively. The sharp turns combined with the shaky car created an uncomfortable ride, and I found myself desperately wishing for the trims to slow things down. Spoiler, they didn't. We rode early in the morning to avoid long waits, and I'm glad we did. Any extra time in line would have been a waste. It's worth noting that not all Mach Wild Mouse coasters are this bad. Speedy Bob at Bobbejaanland proved they can be enjoyable. Unfortunately, the same could not be said for Ghost Chasers or number 3, Kopermijn at Rivliet in the Netherlands. Yes, another Wild Mouse coaster. To be fair, part of the discomfort was on me. I rode alone and we tried to mitigate the laterals a bit by sitting in the middle. That was by far the biggest mistake we made that day. Unlike Ghost Chasers, Kopermijn's cars lack dividers, so sitting in the middle left me sliding around during the sharp lateral turns. The ride itself had some redeeming qualities, like small pops of airtime on the drops, but the ending was a disaster. Those brakes. In just 5 seconds, I was slammed into the lap bar 3 times. Sitting in the middle made it worse, and let's just say it was a painful experience I won't forget anytime soon. If you know a trick to actually enjoy these Wild Mouse coasters, please let me know in the comments down below. I will need it for future rides. Number 2. The Bandit at Movie Park Germany. Back to Movie Park Germany for another rough experience. At first glance, Bandit seems promising with its cyclone-inspired layout. But once you're on board, it is clear this wooden coaster is a disaster. Built by the Roller Coaster Corporation of America, Bandit is plagued by a rough, shuffling ride that feels downright unsafe. The train groans through the layout, and the discomfort just keeps coming. Even at the slower turns, the profiling makes them unbearably uncomfortable. What is frustrating is that this layout shows potential. It has moments that could be fun on a smoother coaster. But as it stands, the roughness outweighs any enjoyment. Despite choosing a middle seat to avoid sitting over the wheels, the ride was brutal. Bandit is desperately in need of a makeover, and I hope an RMC or GCI overhaul is in its future. I guess it comes to no surprise that the Bandit would be on this list, but it may surprise people that it's not the worst new credit I've experienced. That honor goes to number 1, Iron Claw at Movie Park Germany. Taking the top spot is none other than Iron Claw, a Vekoma SLC that proved every bit as dreadful as the reputation suggests. The pain begins the moment you board. The trains still use the old bulky over-the-shoulder restraints, ensuring you will feel every rough transition, and Iron Claw tracks poorly. From the first drop, you are tossed around like a ragdoll, with your head and shoulders taking the brunt of the abuse. The worst section comes after the second inversion, a banked left turn leading into the Sidewinder. The jolts here were so harsh that they actively hurt my back and shoulders. You are just praying for this ride and torture to end. Unlike the Bandit, Iron Claw has no redeeming qualities. It is not the worst SLC I've been on, but that's a low bar. I keep riding these coasters, hoping one will surprise me. So far, no luck. And that wraps up the worst new coasters I've ridden in 2024. But believe it or not, for me, there's something even worse than these rides. To find out what it is, check out the video right here.